It's the Beth Cahill Show. And now, here's Beth.
Good morning and welcome to the Beth Cahill Show. I hope you guys are all out there enjoying your Saturday morning, and thank you for tuning in. If you were not already aware, the Democrats held a debate on Wednesday night, and I want to thank them for doing so because it has given me writing material for the next several weeks. So we're going to get into all of the debate, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I also want to get into Michael Bloomberg because we have not discussed him yet on this show. We're going to talk about the Nevada caucus that is actually happening today and what we can expect from that and some of the best sound bites of the week. So I hope you will stick around for the next 30 minutes while we go through this. Let's start with the Democrat debate that happened on Wednesday. And Bloomberg. Can we talk about Bloomberg for a minute? Because he had a terrible debate, which should not be a shocker to people because Mike Bloomberg is a terrible candidate in so many ways. He's also everything that the Democratic Party has railed against for years. Bloomberg is a white, 78-year-old male billionaire. I mean, the irony in just that statement alone, that he would be on the debate stage fighting for the nomination, is astounding. Just that in itself. Elizabeth Warren, she had a strong night, not strong enough to get her back into frontrunner status. Quite honestly, I don't even know if she gets back into the top two, but she did have a strong debate performance, especially when it came to Bloomberg. What Elizabeth could be responsible for was the absolute evisceration that she did to Michael Bloomberg. Warren took Bloomberg on when it came to the non-disclosure agreements that are out there lingering. She took him on when it came to the stop and frisk policies that he has supported. She went after him on past comments that he's made about women. And honestly, his response to all of it was so bad. I honestly wish I had a better word to describe it, but that's all that it was. It was just all bad. I was watching it thinking there is absolutely no way he doesn't come up with a better answer than this. I got a call from a friend saying the exact same thing as he was watching it. How his response was not better, I will never understand. It was honestly uncomfortable to watch. Listen to the exchange between Liz Warren and Bloomberg.
The mayor has to stand on his record, and what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is
Let me
that?
finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me point. There's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator, no.
Is that right?
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you? And you could release them from that immediately. Because understand, this is not just a question of the mayor's character. This is also a question about electability. We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats.
Mr. Vice President.
So if that was uncomfortable for you to listen to on this show, imagine watching it on television. Bloomberg had to have known that this question was going to come up. I don't understand how his people could not have better prepared him There is one more exchange, though, that I want to share with you that really caught my attention that Elizabeth Warren had said when she was going after Bloomberg. Take a listen.
So I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another. This country has worked for the rich for a long time and left everyone else in the dirt. It is time to have a president who will be on the side of working families and be willing to get out there and fight for them. That is why I am in this race, and that is how I will beat Donald Trump.
Did you notice in this clip that Warren goes on to call Michael Bloomberg a racist, a misogynist, a fraud? And at the end of all of it, she says she'll still support whoever the nominee is. I mean, is that where we are as a country? She went on to call him a racist. She believes he's a racist, a fraud. He has allegations against women sitting in these non-disclosure agreements. But she'll still vote for him. So you're basically the worst of the worst. But since you have a D by your name and you could possibly rid me of Trump, we're good? I'll vote for you anyway? I mean, it's absolutely insane. And it's incredibly a sad state of affairs for our country. It has become so bipartisan. And I'm not just saying on the Democrat side, the Republicans too. But she didn't even try to hide the fact that it doesn't matter all of these horrible things that she felt about him, she would still vote for him. Truly, the only part of the entire debate where it didn't feel like Bloomberg was getting completely trampled on was the 30 seconds that he decided to take on Bernie Sanders, which no one did, by the way. And it was actually a really good moment in the debate because he said what was true and what we've all been thinking for years. He highlighted the absolute hypocrisy that is Bernie Sanders, something our press corps should have been doing a long time ago and certainly should have been asking about. It's the fact that he hates wealth, yet he's a millionaire himself with multiple properties. Bloomberg backed him into a corner where you literally have Bernie laying out all of his properties for the world to see. Listen to this exchange.
People, not billionaires, health care for all, educational opportunity for all.
Senator, thank you. Mayor Bloomberg, would you like the question was about socialism.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much. And I pay all my taxes. And I'm happy to do it because I get something for it.
So watching the debate on Thursday night, it was sort of eerily reminiscent for me for when the Republicans were at it several years ago. They had about 16 people on the debate stage. Everyone was talking about how much disarray they were in. And the Republicans went on to win the White House, the Senate, and the House. So they couldn't have been in that much disarray, or if they were, it didn't matter because their message was still strong. So it's important to not lose sight that this is what the democratic process looks like, right? It's messy. And sometimes it looks like you have a bunch of candidates on stage that should or should not be there. The difference from 2015 when Republicans were having their issues, though, is that at least they were talking policy. Sure, there were some moments on the debate stage that got quite personal and, these were viral moments that involved Trump and things got away from them. But Thursday's debate seemed to be all personal. You had Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg continuing to spar with these little personal exchanges that they had. Those were also uncomfortable to watch. And policy discussion amongst the Democrats is where the GOP will shine. So Republicans better hope that the Democrats start talking policy, because when they talk policy, people can really see how wildly different the opposition is. Getting back, though, to Bloomberg for a moment, it was a big reminder that you can have all of the money in the world, and he does, but it's not going to buy him a good debate performance. It's not going to buy him good stage presence. And it's not going to buy this guy a personality. Mike Bloomberg needed to be the man that you see in the ads, right? He just couldn't make it happen. Everyone was saying that after the show. I mean, it's exactly how all of America probably felt. I mean, here he is. By the time a Super Tuesday comes around, he will have spent close to $800 million. And he's spending money on these ads that make him seem like this bigger than life man, right? But in reality, he seems unprepared to take on even the Democrats on the stage. And if he can't take them on, it makes him enormously unprepared to take on Donald Trump. His ads are great, but he doesn't live up to those ads. He is not what America has seen on television for the past several weeks. He needs to make himself available to the press and vulnerable rather than just buying TV ads. So I do want to move on, though, to the topic of electability. Listen first to this montage of news pundits discussing the electability of Bernie Sanders.
I thought it was a great night for Bernie Sanders. I thought it was a great night for Donald Trump. I thought it was a terrible night for the Democrats.
The truth is Bernie Sanders is on a trajectory to be the Democratic nominee.
To me, I just don't see him having any shot in a general election. I'm panicked. I am absolutely panicked.
Well, no one but Bernie, Stephanie. Come on. He's an anarchist. He would love to burn down the United States.
If we nominate a socialist like Bernie Sanders, we're going to lose. It'll be like George McGovern. It'll be a blowout.
Nobody just says the obvious. Bernie, you're full of it. They're just pandering to the Bernie people. And you know what pandering gets you? Nothing. It certainly doesn't get your respect.
Tom Perez needs to step down. He's a joke. He's a clown. He can't run the Democratic Party anymore. It's lost its way.
I don't see how Democrats do anything but bleed out when they put a socialist at the top of the ticket.
It is a death sentence for the party, and it will lead to Donald Trump's reelection.
The loser, as Leslie put it, are the Democrats.
They've got to get out there and say, I disagree with socialism. I believe in the markets.
Right.
I think he's wrong. I think he'll never get it done. And in this country, we'll never go that direction. And by the way, we'll lose 49 states.
Corbyn didn't work in England. Bernie ain't going to work in the United States. Anyone but Bernie.
So we hear this word a lot in election season, and I always find it a bit odd that we put so much emphasis on the word of electability. Because everyone's electable until they're not, right? I mean, we all heard in 2015 how unelectable Donald Trump was. And we all know what happened there. He went on to win the White House. He won in states he was absolutely not supposed to win. He won states that the Republicans had not won since Reagan. So I don't buy too much into this idea of electability. What we have is, currently, a Democratic socialist as a clear frontrunner in the Democratic primary. That's clear. There's also this idea that Bernie cannot win in a general election, and honestly, I disagree with that, and I disagree with that strongly. I think Bernie would be far more problematic for down-ballot candidates. I think he could cost the Democrats the House, and Republicans would actually pick up more seats in the Senate. But this idea that he cannot win a general election, I don't buy it. Put aside for a moment the policy differences between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Just look at all of the other similarities I'm about to lay out for you. Trump had a grassroots campaign that raised small dollar amounts from donors all over the country, as does Bernie. Donald Trump had supporters that were incredibly loyal and stuck with him no matter what. Sanders also has that same type of support. He's got a loyal base that goes to bat for him every single day, online, social media, and on the ground. Trump had that as well. Trump drew really big crowds, right? Well, Bernie Sanders was just in Tacoma, Washington being my home state, the other night, where he drew a crowd of 15,000 people. 15,000 people came to hear him speak. Trump had pundit after pundit talk about how unelectable he was, Bernie faces the same criticism. They both brand themselves as these outsider candidates to the establishment, right? That's a winning message because the majority of the American people are tired of the status quo. They're tired of career politicians. I'm not saying I think Bernie is going to win it all, but to completely ignore this man or to continue to talk about how unelectable he is, it's a mistake. His policies have to be what is challenged. His socialist ideology must be front and center so that everyone knows exactly what voting for Bernie Sanders represents. People need to start actually explaining what socialism is, right? I mean, get on the ground, start talking about it. Stop just throwing the word around and assuming that everyone knows what that means, because they don't. Start digging into history and showing what socialism has done to destroy countries and the lives of the people living in those countries. My message to Republican and Democrats alike is don't sleep on Bernie Sanders. Take him on, because if he is ignored, he'll be ignored all the way to receiving the nomination. Mayor Pete did not have an overly strong debate night, but he was absolutely correct when he said this.
We've got to wake up as a party. We could wake up 2 weeks from today, the day after Super Tuesday, and the only candidates left standing will be Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg, the two most polarizing figures on this stage. And most Americans don't see where they fit if they've got to choose between a socialist who thinks that capitalism is the root of all evil and a billionaire who thinks that money ought to be the root of all power. Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat. Look, we shouldn't have to choose between one candidate who wants to burn this party down and another candidate who wants to buy this party out. Look, we can do better.
So moving on to the delegates, right? Because this whole thing is about delegates. Who is going to win the most delegates to receive the nomination? So in order to receive the Democrat nomination, you have a total of 3,979 delegates available, right? That's what's available. So the person who gets the most of those delegates, 1991 being the number, 1,991, is who will be the nominee. And here I'm going to lay out for you how the candidates currently stack up regarding delegates, with Iowa and New Hampshire already having voted. You have Pete Buttigieg. He actually has the most delegates right now. He has 23. Bernie Sanders has 21. Elizabeth Warren has 8. Amy Klobuchar has 7. And Joe Biden has 6. So Michael Bloomberg, as you know, he's not been competing in states like Iowa or New Hampshire. He's not competing in today's caucus in Nevada. So there's a ton of delegates left on the table to get, right? I mean, this isn't over. We have a snapshot, but it's not over. It's a delegates game. It's not a popular vote game. It's an absolute game of who can get the most delegates. Nevada is unique, though, which is, again, happening today, from the first 2 states to vote, as it's the first test that these candidates are going to have in a state with a significant non-white voting segment. So Joe Biden likes to talk a lot about this, right? He likes to talk about his support amongst African-American voters. Today is going to be a good judge of what that support actually looks like regarding votes, because polling suggests that him and Bernie Sanders are actually splitting the black vote at this moment. Nevada, though, similar to Iowa, it's a caucus state. So there's 36 pledged delegates available in Nevada, plus there's the additional 12 unpledged, which are basically the superdelegates. We'll discuss that next week, though, in more detail, because we'll know then who received what amount of delegates. But that is what is available today. That's what's on the table. It is expected that Sanders will win Nevada. All of the polling suggests that. So we're thinking that he's going to have a very good night tonight. The real question will be is where everyone else falls and how well does Joe Biden do. So the last thing that I want to talk about today is the economy and the message that Trump has going into re-election that even Obama seems to be recognizing. Last week, the former president, Obama, he took to Twitter and he was basically acknowledging the economy that we're living in right now. He did, however, try to take credit for it, referencing his stimulus package that he had signed into law when he was in office. So it's important to ask yourself when people, say, is it a Trump economy? Is it an Obama economy? I mean, it's a Trump economy. That's the answer. But it's important to ask yourself why this economy is so strong. You have to go back and remember before President Obama left office in August of 2016, before the election, the bipartisan congressional office made its projections, right? This was based on what the economy was currently doing at that time and assuming that that would continue. And in that scenario, the projections were predicted to be flat. Fast forward to 2020 under this administration, and instead it's far from flat, right? Wages are rising. They're rising faster for lower wage workers and certainly faster than they did under Obama. And for every minority group, unemployment continues to be lower than it's been in the last 50 years. Listen to Trump discussing the economy just this week.
We want every citizen to join America's unparalleled success and every community to take part in America's extraordinary rise. Since my election, we have created 7 million new jobs. The unemployment rate has reached the lowest rate in over 51 years. Think of that, 51 years, half a century. And by the way, the 7 million jobs, they thought it might be 2 million if we're lucky. You go back 3 years, they were saying 2 million. We did 7 million, and it's pretty amazing. African American poverty has declined to the lowest rate ever recorded.
So this is the president's winning message. It's a message he should take to the American people every single day and every single group he speaks to. This president is at his best when he stays optimistic for our country. His best message is optimism, and it couldn't be further from what his opposition is offering. It's very doom and gloom with the opposition, and that is a losing message when we are experiencing the strongest economy in over 5 decades. President Trump needs to continue his message of strength and prosperity, especially if he wants to bring back the suburban women voters he lost in the midterms. Come November, this is the Republicans' race to lose, whether we're talking about the House of Representatives, the Senate, or the White House. GOP candidates are having a record surge in the House and Senate filings for races across the country right now. We have a record number of people that are running for GOP seats than ever before. There's a record number of women running for office, and for the first time since 2005, the Republican Party is actually viewed favorably by a majority of the American people. The president's approval rating is the highest that it's ever been, and Republicans are sitting on a massive amount of cash. The GOP alone in the Senate raised more than $10 million in January. Fundraising has gone through the roof. There is enthusiasm on the side of the GOP. So what it will come down to is the independents. With a strong economy and consumer optimism at an all-time high, or near an all-time high, I should say, the Republicans have the winning message. The question becomes, will they stay focused and take that message all the way to victory in November? That has yet to be seen. But that is it for me today. Thank you for listening. I am out of time. I will be back next Saturday. I hope you have a good week. And again, thank you for listening on this Saturday morning.
This has been the Beth Cahill Show. If you have any feedback for Beth or would like to suggest a future topic or guest for the show, email beth@thebethcahillshow.com. That's Beth at thebethcahill, spelled Cahill, show.com. Tune in again next Saturday morning at 9 for more of the Beth Cahill Show, right here on AM 1590. The Answer.